In the Vietnam War, among the high-flying jets of the era, the Cessna A-37 Dragonfly presented a distinct contrast. This compact jet, tipping the scales at just 14,000 pounds and easily accessible at waist height, lacked the imposing presence of its contemporaries. Pilots could simply step into the cockpit, a departure from the norm of climbing shaky ladders to board more menacing counterparts. Equipped with a minigun that some dismissed as little more than a BB pistol in the fierce theater of war, the A-37 was often overlooked. Yet beneath this unassuming exterior lay a surprisingly versatile warrior, especially supporting ground troops. This humble jet trainer was initially designed for basic flight instruction. No one could have imagined that such a seemingly simple aircraft would evolve into one of the premier counterinsurgency planes of the Vietnam War, the A-37A Dragonfly. In 1952, when the United States Air Force needed a trainer to transition fighter pilots into the new jet age, American ex-aviation manufacturing company Cessna entered their Model 318 concept into the competition, winning. The T-37 model was an inexpensive twin-engine waist-high model featuring a pair of Turbomeca J69 engines and side-by-side seating for a teacher and a student. Its design was straightforward, with straight wings, training wheels, landing gear, which eased the segue from propellers and a simple avionics system. In fact, most students could fly solo after a mere 6 hours of training. With over 1,200 copies produced, thousands upon thousands of potential Air Force jet pilots learned how to fly in this stable, easy-to-fly and easy-to-fly machine with a max speed of 425 miles per hour. Despite this simple ruggedness, which made for the perfect learning environment, the aircraft had a unique feature. Its 21,000 revolution per minute turbine blades of the engines produced a high-pitched squeal. According to lore, some ground crew alums suffered from hearing loss in the upper frequency ranges from the earplug penetrating sound, which earned the model the nickname Tweet. While the T-37 Tweet had already established itself as one of the service's premier jet trainers, it was about to prove it could do much more. In the early 1960s, as the United States' involvement in Vietnam was escalating, the Air Force identified the need for a specialized counterinsurgency coin aircraft. The T-37 was the perfect fit for this role, with its operations ranging from forward air control, reconnaissance, air escort, and most importantly, ground support missions. Looking to acquire the Tweet as a promising aircraft, albeit with some modifications like shorter wings, larger wingtip fuel tanks, a minigun, improved avionics, and specific landing gear, the Air Force contacted Cessna and requested a couple of prototypes. The first, named Yati 37D, flew in October 1964. Despite overwhelmingly positive results, interest in the role had waned by then, and the project was shelved. The decision seemed committed, with one of the only 2 prototypes being sent to a museum for public display. Its story was not over just yet. With the program shelved as the Vietnam conflict escalated even further, the service's top choice for the coin role was the A-1 Sky Raider, a World War-era propeller-driven model. Hard to fly for newbie pilots accustomed to jets and dangerous in low and slow combat environments. By the mid-1960s, the service was burning through their vintage-type stockpile faster than anticipated. Faced with this shortage, the Air Force turned to the Tweet again and contracted Cessna for 39 attack-adapted versions of the T-37s. The A-37 Dragonfly, adapted from already finished jet trainers, was a subsonic light attack aircraft that could lift its weight in fuel and armaments. The model retained most of the original Tweet's appearance as well as its cost-effective price tag, at about 1/6 of the price of a McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II. Despite its diminutive appearance, the model, officially named Cessna A-37 Dragonfly, was much more potent than its jet trainer predecessor. With a weight of 14,000 pounds, fully loaded and powered by a duo of General Electric J85J2/5 turbojet engines, it had nearly twice the thrust of its original power plants, giving it a max speed of 506 miles per hour and a range of 932 miles. Rugged landing gear allowed operations from unimproved airfields, while added communication systems enhanced interoperability, navigation, and targeting. The piece de resistance was a General Electric Ju-2BA 6-barrel 7.62 by 51mm minigun mounted on the nose for easy and accessible use. An electrically powered Gatling gun capable of 3,000 rounds per minute, but carrying 1,500 rounds on board could make a powerful 30 seconds of chaos upon the enemy, complete with gun sight and gun camera. By re-engineering the airframe and adding a total of 8 external hardpoints, this spunky little plane was upgraded to carry Mk-80 bombs. Finally, a Cessna-made model could fight back. When 25 models were finished in 1967, they were sent to Vietnam for combat evaluations to fast-track the aircraft's development. At England Air Force Base in Louisiana, Lieutenant Colonel Lew Weber, a veteran pilot of the legendary World War II-era Flying Tigers, devised a groundbreaking strategy. He proposed incorporating live combat into the A-37's operational testing, a method never attempted with any other aircraft. According to Lon Holtz, quote, "Other fighters were proven here in the States. They'd gone through their certification, their weapons loading, their maintenance procedures. That's not the case with the A-37. This aircraft went over to prove itself in combat." After getting approval, Weber assembled the 604th Air Commando Squadron, based at Bien Hoa in South Vietnam, and the small Dragonflies were crated and transported to Vietnam in Lockheed C-141S. With it came 30 pilots from all types of experience in the service, from bombers to transports. Upon their arrival in Asia, Cessna employees unboxed and assembled each one. Some pilots and other service workers of more advanced aircraft mocked the kit plane, leading to a nickname upgrade from Tweet to Super Tweet. Weber's theory for the coin roll was to build a rudimentary fighter out of a simple trainer that every pilot in the service was already comfortable with, hence putting it into action fast. With no advanced weapon systems to learn, a rudimentary World War II-style bomb delivery, and without a traditional nearly one-year-long training program, the model was poised to either fail or perform extremely well in an extraordinarily niche role. During the Vietnam War, the A-37 Dragonfly helped set the standard for lightweight counterinsurgency coin roll, one of the most difficult missions in the military. Well equipped for operations from even the most rudimentary of airfields, the model also required very little maintenance compared to more sophisticated platforms like the F-4 Phantom. As such, it was an ideal aircraft for South Vietnamese pilots, which lacked standard American Air Force training but had great men nonetheless. But the biggest reason the Super Tweet flew mostly under the public radar of Cold War-era aircraft was that it never actually flew into North Vietnam, where enemy air defenses claimed hundreds of models. Instead, it remained in the South, Laos, and Cambodia, where the United States ground forces performed daily missions. The straight-wing design of the Super Tweet allowed it to engage at speeds 100 miles per hour slower than swept-wing fighters, enhancing precision and being capable of reaching areas other larger models wouldn't. In a dive, the Dragonfly was a small and difficult target to hit. Its unusual speeds and altitudes often puzzled enemy gunners. The nose-mounted minigun, often described as a BB pistol in combat, had limited capacity to penetrate the dense jungle canopy during strafing runs. Despite this, the Super Tweet proved to be an exceptionally versatile aircraft. This robust little plane was capable of deploying a variety of ordnance, including conventional gravity bombs, cluster munitions, napalm, and unguided 2.75-inch rockets. Although it could be equipped with gun pods that included additional miniguns and cannons, these were reportedly never utilized in combat. This aircraft had 2 seats from the remaining trainer features. For close support operations, it is typically flown single pilot to maximize ordnance load. But when operating as a forward air controller where it coordinated other close support assets, an observer typically occupied the right seat. During its active service, it was the only United States Air Force jet authorized to shut down an engine during cruising in non-emergency conditions. Doing this on one burner conserved fuel for more loiter time above the target. In its first 3,000 sorties, not a single A-37 was downed by enemy fire. Combat Dragon continued, and the very versatile A-37 flew over 10,000 missions in its first year of combat duty, rapidly gaining the reputation of being both hard-hitting and compelling at coin operations. Combat Dragon continued until December 1967, and after 5 months and nearly 20,000 ordnance deliveries, the validity of Lieutenant Colonel Weber's operational strategy was vindicated. The A-37 could be turned around in as little as 90 minutes, as the Cessna-made model had none of the large fighter's high-maintenance temperament. According to former crew chief Bill McCall, quote, "The 2-to-1 ratio of maintenance to flying hours was fantastic. An F-101 was something like 12-to-1. Give me 2 A-37s and I could literally keep them flying day and night." During Combat Dragon, not a single A-37 was ever lost to enemy fire, only 2 to accidents. That being said, the endless hours and missions of the type led to the realization of many issues, mainly concerning the type's lack of range and endurance. With this taken into consideration, the Air Force continued to improve the Dragonfly, leading to a total of 577 A-37B models. Unlike the original variant, the A-37B was purpose-built. From studying all the flight test combat missions flown during the test trial, the Cessna bulked the model with more thrust from newer engines, larger fuel tanks, and a heavier fuselage, significantly improving performance. The A-37B was even capable of in-flight refueling capability, which extended its range and allowed for longer missions, a critical feature in the prolonged engagements typical in Vietnam. For enemy missions, this newly upgraded model was capable of carrying up to 8,000 pounds of ordnance and was armed with a variety of weapons, including bombs, rockets, and gun pods across its 10 hardpoints. With enhanced armor and upgraded avionics, the A-37B offered better protection and effectiveness for pilots in combat scenarios. The A-37B remained extensively used in the Vietnam War for close air support, interdiction, and counterinsurgency missions. One of the unique capabilities of the A-37B was its suitability for night operations. This allowed the U.S. Air Force to conduct 24-hour bombing campaigns, increasing pressure on enemy forces. Because of its mostly unglamorous missions, most of the A-37 production run went to the Republic of Vietnam Air Force, operating up to 254 of the type. By the end of the Vietnam War, the A-37 had flown an outstanding 160,000 combat sorties with only 22 American Super Tweets lost. However, the A-37 began a new career when the North eventually overran the South, as they captured over 30 intact models. As relatively easy to fly, Communist pilots flew these machines in combat operations against South Vietnamese forces for the rest of the conflict. Overall, while the Cessna A-37 Super Tweet was never as famous as other Vietnam-era models like the F-4 Phantom and B-52 Stratofortress, from 1967 to 1974, according to Air Force documents, the airplane flew 68,471 missions. And today, more than half a century after its introduction, the niche attack jet continues to serve. In the forthcoming years, Vietnam exported the aircraft to a variety of communist states' SAW service, where they continued to serve in coin operations against drug cartels, predominantly in Latin American nations like Peru, Guatemala, and El Salvador, where it remains active as of 2024.